Hey, what's up? What's up? Joe in Vegas back with another review. Some more comedy. Bert Kreischer with Bobby Lee, surprisingly, opening up for him. It's pretty amazing what's going on in the comedy world. These guys are really becoming like rock stars. Social media just changed the game for these guys. Both of them have very successful podcasts. Bert's got a cup. Bert Kreischer is at the top of the game. It was all natural. I mean, these guys worked for years and years and years. But, you know, I've said it with the Kill Tony review. A lot of guys came from that Joe Rogan universe. Again, they busted their own chops. Joe just put them in the spotlight. And then people figured out who they were. And, you know, the beautiful thing about the Rogan podcast is you could sit with someone for 3 hours. And you really get to know them. And you realize how funny they are. And then you start looking into their stand-ups on YouTube. You know, you couldn't do this back in the day. It was like you had a VHS cassette or a CD or a record, and you just heard their stand-up, and that's it. But now you can deep dive these guys and really get to know them. And they all do each other's podcasts. Bobby Lee, one of my favorite comics now. I always liked him. I think I turned on to him during Curb Your Enthusiasm when he played that the Korean boogie. Great, one of my favorite episodes, and I remember him on Mad TV. I remember him being around, but somewhere in there, again, when the podcast got popular, I heard him on Rogan. I liked him on Rogan. He had a Tiger Lily, I think, Tiger something, and then he had another one. He has the Bad Friends now with Andrew Santino, and that is incredible. That's an incredibly viral podcast. I don't know if it's just me, if it's just in my algorithms, but I always see clips from that, and Bobby just cracks me up. So I saw Bert was coming. I looked at the tickets. It was, you know, I've never seen him, and the tickets were cheap. I love it. I love it when people are down to earth, and you know, you go see Kevin Hart. He charges $300 a ticket for stand-up comedy. Bert's tickets, I was in a lower level. I think we paid $60 a ticket plus fees. Came out to $80 maybe. That's the right price. And then I found out after I bought them that Bobby Lee, it wasn't even advertised that much that Bobby Lee was opening, and that was added. That was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I have heard in the past that Bobby, I've heard him on podcasts where I think Rogan even says, like, well, how come you don't have, like, he's the only guy, he's so popular, he doesn't have an hour special that you'll see on Netflix or anything like that. And they talk about it, and I don't think the guy's got the confidence to do it, or he's just lazy. I'm not sure why he doesn't do it, but he kind of beats around the bush. He doesn't really answer it. So when I saw he was opening, I figured Bobby Lee would at least do half an hour, 45 minutes. Normally when you go see a big comics, there's usually two guys before them, two guys that do 15 minutes. So I said, okay, Bobby will probably get half hour, maybe 45 minutes, and Bert will do an hour, hour and a half. I was surprised. Bobby only did like 20 minutes. I didn't look at the clock, but maybe 20 minutes at the most. I mean, he really was acting like he's just some young opening stand-up, and he's so much bigger than that, and he's so much better than that. I thought his set was great. Again, I don't like reviewing comics because I can't give away the jokes. I'm not going to give away the jokes. But, you know, Bobby on his own was top-notch comedy. You know, being a short set, it's even better. I mean, the guy just hits you with these bombs right out of the gate, and it's just such a short period that it's just, you want more. He leaves you wanting more, which is not the worst thing either. But I really enjoyed Bobby as an opener. If Bobby ever hears this, and believe me, you'd be surprised who hears this stuff. I know I saw Pauly Shore. He ended up hearing it, and he touched base, and I actually got a little friendly with him from this review channel. So Bobby, if you're ever listening to this, brother, you got it. Look at your numbers. Look how popular in the podcast. Why are you not a headliner? I don't understand it. So that was Bobby. There wasn't anybody else. It started at about 8:30ish. Bobby did about 20 minutes, and then Bert came on. I've always loved Bert. I think I watched one of his specials a couple of years ago. I have found for me, when I go see comedy, I don't know what it is. I mean, I like concerts more because it's, you sit down, you stand up, sit down. There's more energy. Lately, when I've been seeing comics, not that I've been getting bored. It's really good stuff, but I just find my own self, as I'm getting older, I get antsy, especially when there's two openers that by the time you get to the main guy you came to see, you've already been sitting for an hour and a half or an hour. So with Bert, he goes down so easy. He's like a rock star. He comes out, he takes his shirt off. That's a signature thing. They showed a little movie before he got on stage with all the crazy shit. The guy's crazy, and he's awesome. And he's like an everyday man, which is why he's so relatable. But what I got out of his set, which is why I really loved it, the last guy I remember doing stand-up like this is Ron White, who I love too. And they are storytellers. These guys are the best storytellers. They have jokes, but they're mostly stories. And everything he says is like a 15 or 20-minute story. That's how he got so big. If you don't know the story of The Machine, I highly recommend you just go on YouTube and check out Bert Kreischer, The Machine. It was such a popular story. I think, if my memory serves me correct, he told the story on Joe Rogan, and Rogan's like, what are you doing? How are you not doing this on stage? And it really changed his whole life. He made a movie called The Machine. It's just a crazy story. But I noticed outside of The Machine tonight, everything was a story, a 15-minute story, and I love it because it's so natural. Just like Ron White, you feel like you're sitting at a barbecue with the funniest guy in the world who's a little drunk and is just telling you stories of his life. Oh, I'm not going to give any stories, but this happened. You won't believe this crazy story. And when you tell a story, it's so relatable versus someone who's just doing, a minute-long joke, just jumping. You could tell in their head they have bullet points and they're going through it. Bert just talks. He just talks, and he's so lovable, and you just want to keep hanging out with him like a drunken frat brother. But he also, like he said, he hadn't performed in a long time, so it was exciting, but he also went on a lot of tangents. Like, he'll be telling a story, and then he'll go off and tell a sub-story, and then even a sub-story, and then be like, shit, where was I? Okay, then he'll go back to the original story. But you could tell it was from excitement, and you could tell that it was real, and he was just being Bert, and it's so easy. He did about an hour and a half, I think even more, of just stories. There was one part where he took out his phone, and he went through just little tidbits of ideas. That was like real joke writing. Just little, hey, you guys ever notice blah, 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 blah? And it would just be this funny, thought. And it was hilarious. But then he went back to the stories. And that's what does it for Bert. And that's what makes these a great show. It's different than a normal stand-up show. You just sit back, get drunk, and you're, hanging out with the funniest guy in the fucking world. And he's sharing these crazy fucking stories of his life and his wife's life, and his kids. And it's fantastic. The whole thing, between Bobby and Bert, it's a great few hours at a great price. I highly recommend it. On a comedy scale, I think it's a 9.75 out of 10. You're not going to get a better bang for your buck. If they're coming to your city, he's doing another night tomorrow night. I even thought about going back because I think he'll just tell different stories. I don't think it's like a set that he does. Maybe a couple of stories are the same, but I've heard The Machine a couple times, and he closed with The Machine. And I've heard it at least 4 or 5 times in my life. It's like a 20-minute story. And I love it. I can, even this time, it was great. I loved it. I loved everything about this show. This is as good as it gets for stand-up comedy shows. So if they're coming to your town, go check out the tour. Go see them. It's great stuff. I wish Bobby deserves more time. I don't think he wants to do it. I think if he has plenty of opportunity, but he just doesn't. So thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Leave some comments if you're there. Tell me what you thought, and I will see you at the next show. Bye-bye.